Good morning, everybody. I hope that you all had a great weekend. Um, we are going to start reading this week with a new chapter book. This book is a little longer than the book that we read last week. The one that we read last week was only 3 chapters. This has several more and is an actual chapter book. So you know, it is called EllRay Jake's The Recess King, and this is what it looks like. And it's by Sally Warner, and it's a really cool book that I know my daughter read. And it's basically about this kid who is in elementary school. I believe he is 8, so around the same age as you guys. And he is running out of best friends. And this is like a really big deal for him. And so he uses recess as a time to try to find a new best friend. And it just kind of goes throughout his days through school with his siblings, his parents, all that good stuff. So we are going to begin reading it today. And I'm going to read chapter 1. And your learning target for this, for today and for the rest of the week while we continue to read this book is we're still going to be practicing identifying characters and also using detail when we're talking about those characters. You're going to be able to describe the setting of the story um, in detail. So, like, I want you to describe the setting as well as the characters as a whole. What character traits do they have physically or physical traits that they have that are talked about in the book so you can get a visual as to what that character looks like, how they behave, um, and then the events that are happening in the story. So I want you to be able to describe those 3 things in detail while also using the text as a reference. So if I said on, I said the character had blue eyes and really dark brown hair, I want you to be able to say, Miss Purnell, on page 2, the character was described as having blue eyes with dark brown hair, like that. So where in the text are you finding that information? Okay. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So here we are. Chapter 1. Also, by the way, since this is an actual chapter book, we're going to see how this goes, but it does not have illustrations, okay? So I'm not going to show you each page or anything, but I want you to listen carefully. I think each chapter is about 10 pages, so it sounds like a lot, but I mean, it's okay. It's manageable. So just bear with me. And again, this recording of me reading is your reference. So I'm going to make sure that I say the page numbers. So when you make your Flipgrid response, you can say on, page 5, you said blah, 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 blah. I want you to be able to do that. So if you have to watch this over again, rewind it, whatever, do what you need to do to make sure that you're reaching your learning target. Okay, so here we go. Page 1, chapter 1, The Terrible Truth. What's so great about going to the grand opening of the park tomorrow? I asked my sister Alfie as I made a snow angel on her fluffy bedroom rug. So they fixed it up a little. It will still be the same boring place. My name is EllRay Jakes, and I am 8 years old. I know this kind of stuff. Nuh-uh, 4-year-old Alfie argued, scowling. It said new on the sign in the post office, didn't it? And signs don't lie. It's against the law. They're going to have free hot dogs, Mom said, so we get to each ask a friend. Free means free in Alfie speak, and friend means friend. Alfie's R's sort of come and go. I sighed. A park's not new just because they plant better grass and change the benches so people can't sleep on them and paint over the graffiti. Dad said that all they were going to do, and it's January, Alfie. It might be raining. Page 2. But there's probably a better play area now, Alfie says, ignoring my weather forecast. The old play area at Eustace B. Penpacker Memorial Park only had one swing set and one tetherball pole that had been missing its actual ball for almost a year. I reminded myself. So it would be hard to make the play area any worse. Listen, Alfie, I said, we already saw the so-called new park the other day, didn't we? When Mom got lost on the way to Trader Joe's, we drove right by it. Our mom sometimes goes a different way to the store when traffic gets too crowded. She also likes to park our Toyota with plenty of space on each side, even though the car is older than I am. Mom is a very careful driver. I'm going to have the coolest car ever. It will always be new and it will have flames painted on the sides, or at least skinny stripes. But when we saw the park, it didn't have a ribbon or front of it. Hold on one second. But when we saw the park, it didn't have a ribbon in front of it for a queen to cut with giant scissors. EllRay, Alfie says, but as if I just missed the most obvious point about Oak Glen's newest park, which is opening tomorrow morning, like I said, Saturday. Page 3. EllRay is Alfie's version of EllRay, which is a shorter and less awful version of Lancelot Raymond, my full name, official name. My mom writes love stories for ladies, see? About dead or imaginary kings and queens. I guess she got a little carried away naming me when I was born. Mom sometimes does that, in my opinion. And my college professor dad was probably too busy studying weird rocks to put up an argument. Later, as time went by, my too fancy name was shortened first to L. Raymond and then to EllRay. But now, everybody just calls me EllRay. And I won't do much more translating for Alfie, I promise. This is California, Alfie, I reminded her. Oak Glen doesn't have a queen. That lady you're talking about is our new mayor. She just acts like a queen. The new mayor shows up everywhere, wearing a fancy hat. It's the only lady's hat in Oak Glen, I think. She also waves a lot. Page 4. I try not to sigh again as I click my robotic insect action figure, already cool enough, into deadly looking tank. I start rolling it toward the lavender pony whose long blonde tail Alfie is combing. I imagine destroying its golden corral. Crunch! Nothing personal, Lavender Pony. That lady is too a queen, Alfie informs me. Just because she doesn't wear her queen hat all the time, she adds, shaking her own head so hard that her 3 soft puffy braids swing back and forth. You probably think she should wear it to bed, don't you? She continues. Or when she goes swimming. But real queens don't do that. I asked Mom once and she said no. So, Alfie has recently discovered sarcasm, I am sorry to say. You're mixing stuff up, I tell her. First, it's called a crown, not a queen hat. I begin. And second, but Alfie had moved on. You don't have anyone to invite to the park, she interrupts, because you're running out of friends. I feel my cheeks getting hot because what Alfie just said is basically the terrible truth. And I'm her big brother and she needs to look up to me. What? I am not running out of friends, I argue, but I don't sound very convincing. Page 5. Well, I have Suzette, Arletty, and Mona to choose from, Alfie says, setting aside her star-spangled banner horse to argue with me. And you just have Corey, only he's always busy swimming. My best friend, Corey Robertson, is an 8-year-old swimming champion. He will probably be in the Olympics someday, everyone says. I don't know what his plans are after that. Neither does he. His parents haven't told him yet. I have other friends too, I tell Alfie. What about Kevin? Kevin McKinley is the only other boy with brown skin in Mrs. Sanchez's third grade class at Oak Glen Primary School. He has been one of my two best friends for a couple of years, but lately he's been hanging out a lot with a couple of kids who live on his street, but who goes to private school. I don't even know their names. It's too risky for me to ask Kevin to come to the park tomorrow, even though he really, really likes hot dogs. Page 6. He might say no, or he could tell the other guy in our class that it's babyish for an 8-year-old to care about a new play area in some lame new old Jack Park. And then our friendship would really be over. I thought you said Kevin was sometimes Jared's friend now, Alfie says. Jared Matthews, my part-time enemy. I never told you that, I object. Anyway, it changes around, and since when do you keep track of my life? Mind your business, Alfie. You've got enough problems. You need a spare friend, Alfie tells me, ignoring what I just said about my problems. You know, she says, grabbing another horse to brush, the way Mom's car has a spare tire. Both of us were in my mom's car last week when it got a flat tire on San Vicente Park, which is always super busy. Mom steered our wobbling car over to the side of the road. She told us to stay put while she called for help, but it was scary. Waiting in the back seat as all that traffic whizzed by. I pretended it wasn't scary though because of Alfie. I looked out for her in secret. Page 7. The spare tire that the auto club guy put on our car looked like it belonged to a clown car. It was so little. I was embarrassed for our poor Toyota. I don't want a spare friend like that. I'm already the smallest kid in my class, aren't I? I could use someone big. You know, Alfie continues, a spare for emergencies, like this one. For your information, Alfie, going to Pennypacker Park for a free hot dog isn't an emergency, I tell her, getting it to my feet. Page 8. Alfie and her goofy opinions can just stay here playing with sparkly fake horses, I tell myself. I am trying to ignore the voice in my head that is saying she's a little bit right. You should hold an audition, Alfie announces before I can escape. That's where we're doing at my school. It was all Miss Nancy's idea. Alfie goes to creative learning in daycare, even though they spell creative wrong, which drives my dad bonkers. You're auditioning friends at daycare? I asked, tossing in a little sarcasm of my own. No, Alfie says, calm as anything. We auditioned for our spring show last week. The best part of the show was called Brown Bear, and I'm going to be the star. Mom already started making my costume. You're the bear? I asked, my forehead wrinkling. Because usually Alfie is more of a kitty or a bunny or a sparkly pony kind of girl. She might make an exception if she could be a panda, but Miss Sanchez said pandas aren't really bears. Anyway, they're black and white, not brown. I'm a goldfish, she says, sighing as having explaining something so simple. I want to be the last animal everybody sees, so I'll get all the clapping. I'll figure it out. Good luck with that, I call over my shoulder as I leave Alfie's pink and purple room. At least I have friends, Alfie yells after me. And that was the end of chapter 1. So, it was a lot of stuff packed into chapter 1. A lot of dialogue between EllRay and his sister Alfie. So, right off the bat, I know you can answer number 1, which would be describe the characters. And remember to describe the setting and what happened in the first chapter. Do it in your Flipgrid response. You should be able to use I've extended the length of time that it's going to take you to record your response, so you'll have longer. Since it is a lot more information from these chapters than it was in the previous chapters from last week. So go do that, and then I will be back with you tomorrow for chapter 2.